Thank you so much. I will share my screen here. Hope that's visible now. So great. Yes, exactly. I just wanted to also start with saying that SKF is normally known to most people in the industries. We are producing bearings as our main product. And actually linking it to circular use, we are already remanufacturing bearings to be used for the same purpose again and again in the industrial equipment all over the world. But that was not what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about another technology that we have added to our portfolio. And it's about looking at the use of industrial oil and the sustainable use of industrial oil. So SKF is constantly looking for technologies that can make the operations at our customers more sustainable and reliable. And a perfect example of that is our new technology, enabling just that, sustainable use and circular use of lubricants in the industrial environment. And we call that RecondOil. And as our previous speakers already have shown and conveyed, we are in a linear way of using our products today in many cases, which means a take, make and waste, quite high cost kind of culture of using our products. And of course, we want to change that. Conventional way of using lubricants is to extract them and produce them, and then use them in the equipment, and then finally dispose them when they are not up to performance any longer. And this, of course, comes with high costs, not only economically, but definitely from a sustainability point of view. And we want to completely change this and make the lubricant an asset instead of a consumable, and by basically regenerating it so it can be reused for the same purpose over and over again. So just imagine for a moment the consequences if the lifespan of industrial oil were endless. Well, virtually all industrial machines use oil as a lubricant today. And in fact, about 19 million tons of industrial lubricants are consumed globally every year. And the direct cost related to these 90 million tons include things like transporting it, storing it, monitoring it, filtrate the oil, handling it, and dispose it. Imagine if you can get rid of those tons by making the oil circular. Well, the most important effect is, of course, the impact it has on the environment. So we have calculated in our life cycle analysis that for every cubic meter of oil, basically 1 ton of oil, we can save up to 3.8 tons of CO2. And for these 19 million tons of industrial oil consumed every year, that would mean over 70 million tons of CO2 every year that can be saved. But the story doesn't end there. There are many indirect effects coming out of this of using an ultra clean oil at all times. You know that in production, there's a lot of variability that you need to take into account. And the variability in production, due to having an unclean oil in the machines, is a major cause of millions of tons of scrap every single year, just because we cannot produce the quality required by the customer. Imagine getting rid of that too. So how can we then solve this? Well, our solution is RecondOil to this challenge. And RecondOil started actually with a customer case at a former assembly company called SAP. And SAP is a manufacturer of precision metals, such as steel wires used for precision products You can imagine you have it in, for example, a Rolex watch. And in its wire drawing process, they suffered from microscopic particle contamination in the oil that the conventional filtration technologies could not remove. So in order to maintain the highest product quality, the company had to replace the oil every 12 weeks. And this generated high oil purchase costs, of course, and disposal costs, and also revenue losses. And you cannot imagine also the environmental cost of this. And they were also locked into a certain sequential production of quality, since only the highest product qualities could be produced in the beginning of the oil change cycle. So with basically new oil. But by implementing the Recad oil technology, suddenly they can use the same oil all over again, just because it was continuously cleaned, and suddenly they had an ultra clean oil at all times. All these nano-sized particles that they couldn't capture before were now captured and separated out, and the oil stopped to age. It stopped to degrade. And the result now is that SAP has been using actually the same oil for the last 9 years, and they have avoided over 40 oil changes. And to add up the CO2 savings here, we talk about 450 tons of saved CO2. Again, the story doesn't end there. The big gains have come from the indirect effects on production. They see an 88% scrap reduction and a 25% productivity increase. And the scrap reduction also adds up to the environmental savings. So the question now is, of course, how this links to SKF and SKF's strategy. Well, in our new updated strategy earlier this year, we are looking at a different SKF 2030, where intelligent and clean growth is the way forward. And one clear target that was stated actually already before the strategy review a few years back is that our own manufacturing should be completely carbon neutral by 2030. And that is, of course, something we would like to help our customers with as well. So to achieve an endless lifespan for the industrial oil, or what we call a truly circular use of oil, there are two enablers. This patented green technology that we call DST, double separation technology, and also a new business model called oil as a service. But first, we have to understand why we need to change the oil. Well, the obvious reason is that it's losing its performance due to several factors. At the start of a new oil in the machine, the oil has its performance, which is on the right level. At a certain point, it starts to degrade, and at a certain point, the oil doesn't perform as it should and needs to be changed. And the factors that we're talking about, the most important ones are the ones that create this oxidation in the oil, which is causing the oil to degrade, to age, basically. But this must be something that conventional filtration techniques can handle, right? No, not really, because as I just explained, the smallest particles, these nanoparticles, they normally slip through conventional filters. And when we look at oil in detail, we see that they constitute of 80% of the surface area in the oil. So when you are using conventional filtration techniques, you get rid of the microparticles, but nanoparticles, the really bad guys, they are creating this oxidation process and start to degrade the oil, so it cannot be used any longer at a certain point. So our response to that, and the new technology that we are suggesting, is the double separation technology, or DST. And this is a combined chemical and mechanical separation technology. And the chemical booster, the chemical part, is the booster that we are adding to the oil, mixing into the oil, and it's attracting all types of contaminants, big and small, and also nano-small. And this booster, they attract the particles, and they start to coalesce into bigger particles, and at a certain point, they become heavier than the oil, and they start to basically sediment, and then they are easily mechanically separated out. And the DSD system that we offer works basically as a kidney loop to the customer oil system, and is therefore continuously cleaning the oil. So you keep the oil ultra clean at all times. And by having that ultra clean oil at all times, you can use the same oil for the same purpose over and over again. And as already well understood then, our core in the value proposition is of course sustainability. But you don't need to make a choice any longer between being green and also being cost efficient, as the direct and indirect cost savings can be tremendous by applying circular use of oil. This technology is of course yet to be proven on a global scale, and therefore we are implementing this first in our own factories to be able to achieve, of course, valuable learnings, learn from our mistakes, but also prove the value in real monetary value. And so far we've already installed these units in more than 15 factories, and we have a very ambitious rollout program for the future as well. And already now we can see unbelievable results, at least according to our own factory people, not only from a sustainability point of view, that we save a lot of CO2 emissions, but also that we see that the process and the product performance improve a lot. And as told, we of course want to make this technology available to anyone within the industry. And therefore, we realized that we need to change the business model and offer it instead as a service. And we call that oil as a service. And by doing that, we are avoiding heavy initial investments for the customer, and also we share the risk and returns from the project with the customer. And as a previous speaker already said, Carl already mentioned, we are basically lowering the entry barrier for the customer to be able to take advantage of this technology. And the aim is, of course, that we never have to pay more for industrial oil ever again. So in summary, basically you no longer need to make a choice between, let's say, doing good while earning less and doing nothing and earning more. Green is the new black. Thank you so much.